When a pregnant woman was brutally attacked by robbers in a parking lot, they had no idea a watchful Hell's Angel would transform their easy crime into the worst mistake of their lives. What happens when society's most feared outlaws become unexpected guardians of justice? The sun was setting behind the tall buildings that lined the edge of the shopping center. Long shadows stretched across the parking lot like dark fingers. The air was warm, but a cool breeze made shopping bags rustle and car doors slam with sharp, echoing sounds. Olive walked slowly through the parking lot, one hand on her round belly. She was 7 months pregnant, and her baby kicked inside her like a tiny dancer. Her other hand pushed a shopping cart filled with bags. The wheels made a squeaky sound that mixed with the distant noise of cars on the highway. Olive smiled as she thought about the baby things she had just bought. A soft yellow blanket that felt like a cloud, tiny mittens to keep little hands warm, a mobile with stars and moons to hang above the crib. All the items were now safely tucked in bags, ready to go home to the nursery she had painted sky blue last weekend. Her back ached, and her feet hurt in her worn sneakers, but Olive didn't mind. In just 2 more months, she would hold her baby boy in her arms. "Just a little longer, little one," she whispered, feeling another kick in response. Olive laughed softly. "You're going to be a soccer player, I think." She reached her small blue car, parked near the back of the lot. Most people had already gone home for dinner, leaving this section nearly empty. Olive liked parking away from other cars. It meant fewer dings on her doors. And she enjoyed the extra walking. The doctor said walking was good for her and the baby. She pulled out her keys, the little teddy bear keychain jingling as she clicked the button to unlock the trunk. The sound of fast footsteps made Olive turn her head. 2 men were walking toward her. Something about them made her stomach tighten with worry. They didn't have shopping bags. They weren't headed toward a car. Their eyes were fixed on her, and their faces didn't look friendly. "Hey there, Mama," called the taller one. He wore a dark hoodie despite the warm evening. His smile didn't reach his eyes, which looked cold and hard. "Looks like you need some help with those bags." Olive's heart began to pound in her chest. The baby kicked again, as if sensing her fear. She gripped her purse tighter and tried to open her car door faster. "No, thank you," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I can manage." The second man was shorter but stocky, with muscles that bulged under his t-shirt. He moved to the other side of her car, blocking her path if she tried to run. Olive looked around for help, but this far corner of the parking lot was empty. The store entrance seemed miles away now. "That's a nice purse," said the shorter man, pointing to Olive's leather bag. Her husband Tom had given it to her for her birthday last year. Inside was her wallet, phone, and the ultrasound pictures of her baby. "Must have some nice things in there." Olive's hands began to shake. She thought of her baby and what might happen if these men hurt her. The taller man stepped closer, and she could smell cigarette smoke on his clothes. "Please," Olive said, her voice shaking now. "I'm pregnant. I just want to go home." "This won't take long," said the taller man, reaching for her purse. "Give us the bag and your keys, and you can waddle on home." Olive held her purse tighter, thinking of her phone inside. Without it, she couldn't call for help or call Tom. The shorter man laughed, an ugly sound that made goosebumps rise on Olive's arms. Neither Olive nor the 2 men noticed the bearded man sitting on a motorcycle several parking spots away. He wore a leather vest despite the warm evening, with patches sewn on the back. The largest patch showed the words Hell's Angels with a winged skull. His name was Hawk, and he had stopped to rest after a long ride. Now his eyes narrowed as he watched the scene unfold. The taller man grabbed Olive's purse strap and pulled hard. Olive didn't let go, and the sudden tug made her stumble. She fell against her car with a cry of pain and fear. The shopping bag in her other hand dropped to the ground. The yellow baby blanket fell out and landed on the dirty asphalt. "No!" Olive cried, one hand going to her belly. "Please don't hurt my baby." The shorter man grabbed her arm roughly. "Just give us the purse, lady, and this won't get worse." Tears filled Olive's eyes. She thought of Tom, who was waiting at home. She thought of their baby boy, who might get hurt if these men pushed her again. She thought of all the happy plans they had made. Would they all end here in this parking lot? Hawk's hand tightened on his motorcycle handlebars. His jaw clenched as he watched the pregnant woman struggle against the two men. He had seen enough. The taller man yanked the purse from Olive's shoulder, making her cry out. The strap broke with a sharp snap. Olive lost her balance and fell to her knees on the rough pavement. Pain shot through her legs, but all she could think about was protecting her belly. She wrapped both arms around it like a shield. "Please," she begged, tears running down her face. "I need my phone. My husband will be worried." The shorter man laughed and kicked the yellow baby blanket aside with his dirty boot. The blanket that Olive had picked out so carefully. The blanket she had imagined wrapping her baby boy in when they brought him home from the hospital. It now lay on the ground, getting dirty and torn. Olive thought about the day she and Tom found out they were having a baby. How they had jumped and laughed and cried happy tears in their little kitchen. How Tom had put his hand on her still flat belly and promised to always keep them safe. The small blue booties her mother had knitted were in one of the shopping bags, along with a card that read, "For my first grandchild." Would she even make it home tonight to show Tom all the baby things she had bought? The taller man opened her purse and dumped everything on the ground. Olive's wallet fell out, along with her keys, lip balm, and the small black and white photos from her last doctor visit. The ultrasound pictures of her baby scattered across the pavement like fallen leaves. "No, please," Olive cried, reaching for the photos. "Those are my baby's pictures." The shorter man stepped on one of the photos, grinding it under his heel. "Looks like you got cash and cards. Take 'em and let's go," he said to his partner. The taller man grabbed Olive's wallet and took out all the cash, the money she had saved for the crib that was on sale this weekend. He pocketed her credit cards, too. Olive felt sick to her stomach, not just from fear, but from a deep pain that started in her back and wrapped around to the front. "Something's wrong," she whispered, feeling a sharp cramp. "The baby?" Neither man seemed to care. The taller one grabbed her arm and pulled her up roughly. "Where's your car key? Which one is it?" "The blue one," Olive said weakly, pointing with a shaking hand. She felt another cramp and gasped. "Please, I think I need a doctor." "Not our problem," the shorter man said with a cold smile. He picked up her key with the teddy bear keychain. "Nice ride. Bet it'll sell quick." Olive thought about Tom waiting at home, probably starting to worry. They always texted each other when leaving the store. Her phone lay on the ground, its screen now cracked. She thought about the nursery at home, half finished, waiting for all the things now scattered on the dirty pavement. She thought about her baby boy, moving less now inside her, as if he too was scared. A few shoppers walked by in the distance. Some looked over, then quickly looked away. No one came to help. Olive felt alone and scared in a way she had never felt before. The pain in her back got worse. The taller man pulled her toward the car. You're coming with us until we get out of the lot. Don't want anyone getting our plates." Fear like ice water rushed through Olive's body. If they took her away in the car, would she ever see Tom again? Would her baby ever be born? She tried to pull away, but the man's grip was too strong. "Let go of me," she shouted, finding strength in her fear. "Help! Somebody help me!" The shorter man raised his hand to hit her. Olive closed her eyes, turning to shield her belly. But the blow never came. Instead, she heard a deep, rumbling sound. The growl of a motorcycle engine starting up. The men heard it too and looked over. Hawk sat on his motorcycle, revving the engine. The powerful sound echoed through the parking lot like thunder. He wore a leather vest over a dark t-shirt. His arms were covered in tattoos. His long beard and serious eyes made him look fierce. The large patch on his back showed the Hells Angels logo clear as day. The two men froze. The taller one's eyes got big when he saw the patch. Everyone knew about the Hells Angels. They were tough bikers who didn't let people mess with the innocent, especially women and children. Hawk turned his motorcycle and rode slowly toward them, the engine growing louder with each second. The sound seemed to wake up the parking lot. People who had been hurrying to their cars now stopped to watch. A security guard near the store entrance looked over. "That's a Hells Angel," the shorter man whispered to his partner. "Let's get out of here." "Not without the car," the taller one argued, still holding Olive's arm. "We can take him. There's two of us." But Hawk wasn't alone anymore. 3 more motorcycles appeared at the entrance to the parking lot. The riders saw Hawk and headed his way, their engines adding to the thunder. All wore the same leather vests with patches. The taller man let go of Olive's arm like it was suddenly burning hot. "Forget it," he said to his partner. "This isn't worth it." Olive fell back against her car, holding her belly. The pain was getting worse. She watched as Hawk got closer, his eyes locked on the 2 men, who now looked much less brave than before. Help had come from the last place she would have expected. Hawk stopped his motorcycle just a few feet from the robbers. The engine rumbled like an angry animal. His face was hard as stone, his eyes narrowed under bushy eyebrows. The patch on his back seemed to glow in the fading light. "That's enough," Hawk said, his voice deep and calm, but with steel behind it. "Step away from the lady." The taller robber tried to look brave. "This isn't your business, man. Just keep riding." Hawk didn't blink. "When you put your hands on a pregnant woman, you made it my business." The 3 other motorcycles pulled up behind Hawk. The riders were big men with beards and leather vests matching Hawk's. They formed a half circle, engines still rumbling. People in the parking lot had stopped to watch. Some had phones out, recording everything. The shorter robber pulled at his friend's arm. "Come on, let's go. There's 4 of them." But the taller one wasn't ready to give up. "We got her purse and keys. Let's just take the car and go." One of the other bikers stepped off his motorcycle. He was even bigger than Hawk, with arms as thick as tree branches. "You heard my brother. Step. Away." Olive leaned against her car, both hands on her belly. The pain came in waves now. She watched as shoppers gathered in small groups nearby. A woman in a red coat was on her phone, talking fast. The store security guard was walking over, but slowly, like he wasn't sure what to do. The taller robber finally seemed to understand the trouble he was in. 4 Hells Angels against 2 purse snatchers weren't good odds. He dropped Olive's keys on the ground and backed up a step, but he still held her purse. "Fine, keep the car. We're taking the cash, though." Hawk shook his head slowly. "You're not taking anything that isn't yours." The taller robber reached into his pocket. The movement was quick, and something flashed in the fading light. A knife. The blade wasn't long, but it looked sharp. "Back off, old man," he growled, waving the knife. "Or you'll be sorry." People in the crowd gasped. Someone shouted, "He has a knife!" But Hawk didn't look scared. He stayed on his motorcycle, watching the robber with the same calm eyes. The robber took a step forward, the knife pointed at Hawk. What happened next was so fast that Olive could hardly believe it. The big biker who had stepped off his motorcycle moved like lightning. His hand shot out and grabbed the robber's wrist. With one twist, the knife fell to the ground with a clatter. The robber yelped in pain as the biker pushed him down to his knees. The shorter robber tried to run, but two of the other angels were off their bikes in seconds. They caught him before he made it 5 steps. Olive's purse fell from his hands as they held him. "Let me go," he shouted, struggling. "We didn't hurt her." Hawk finally got off his motorcycle. He walked over to where Olive's things were scattered on the ground. Carefully, he picked up the ultrasound photos and the yellow baby blanket. He brushed dirt from the blanket with gentle hands that seemed too big for such a careful job. The security guard finally reached them, radio in hand. "Police are on the way," he said, looking nervous around the bikers. Hawk nodded. "Good. They need to arrest these two." He walked over to Olive, holding her things. "Are you okay, ma'am? Do you need a doctor?" Olive felt another pain, stronger than before. She winced and shook her head. "Something's wrong. The baby. I think it's coming too early." Hawk turned to the crowd. "Does anyone here work at a hospital? Or know first aid?" A woman stepped forward. "I'm a nurse. Let me check her." The nurse came over and helped Olive sit on the ground, back against her car. She asked questions and felt Olive's belly with gentle hands. "How far along are you?" the nurse asked. 7 months, Olive answered, her voice shaking. "Is my baby okay?" The nurse looked worried. "You're having contractions. We need to get you to a hospital." In the distance, sirens wailed. The police were coming. Olive looked up at Hawk, who stood nearby, still holding her yellow baby blanket and ultrasound photos. His face looked different now, concerned, not fierce. "Thank you," Olive whispered. "If you hadn't been here—" Hawk shook his head. "Don't think about that now. Just focus on your baby." The crowd had grown larger. People who had been afraid to help before now offered water, jackets to keep Olive warm, and phones to call her husband. The two robbers sat on the ground, held firmly by the bikers and the security guard. A woman from the crowd approached Hawk. "I got it all on video," she said, holding up her phone. "What you guys did? It was amazing. I always thought Hell's Angels were, you know." Hawk's face didn't change. "We're people, same as anyone. We just don't like seeing the weak get hurt." 2 police cars pulled into the parking lot, lights flashing blue and red. Right behind them came an ambulance, its siren screaming. The sound cut through the evening air like a knife. The paramedics rushed over with a stretcher. They asked Olive questions as they checked her vital signs. The contractions were coming faster now. One paramedic looked at the others and said words Olive couldn't understand, but she could tell from their faces that things were serious. "We need to move her now," one paramedic said. "She's going into early labor." They helped Olive onto the stretcher. As they lifted her, she reached out and grabbed Hawk's rough hand. "My husband. Tom? He doesn't know." Hawk nodded. "What's his number?" "I'll call him. Tell him to meet you at the hospital." The police officers were putting handcuffs on the robbers now. One officer came over to talk to Hawk and the other bikers. Olive watched as the angels explained what happened. Several people from the crowd stepped forward to back up their story. As the paramedics wheeled Olive toward the ambulance, she noticed the security cameras on tall poles around the parking lot. They had seen everything. The attack, the rescue, all of it caught on tape. The whole world would know what these bikers had done. The yellow baby blanket was tucked beside Olive on the stretcher, along with her ultrasound photos. Hawk had made sure she had them. A tough biker with a heart gentle enough to care about a baby blanket. Nothing made sense anymore, but in a good way. The ambulance doors closed with a solid thud. Inside, Olive lay on the stretcher, the yellow baby blanket still tucked beside her. The siren wailed as they pulled away, lights flashing across the parking lot. Through the small window, she could see Hawk talking to a police officer, her ultrasound photos still in his big hand. At the hospital, everything moved very fast. Nurses in blue scrubs rushed around Olive, hooking up machines that beeped and showed lines that went up and down. A doctor with kind eyes and a mask over her face checked Olive and spoke in a calm voice. "You're having contractions, but we're going to try to stop them," the doctor said. "Your baby needs more time to grow." Olive felt tears run down her cheeks. "Is my baby going to be okay?" The doctor patted her hand. "We're doing everything we can. You're both in good hands now." They gave Olive medicine through a tube in her arm. Slowly, the pain began to fade. The lines on the machines became smoother. The beeping sounds grew steady, like a calm heartbeat. Then the door burst open, and Tom rushed in. His face was white with worry, his work clothes rumpled like he had run out the minute he heard. When he saw Olive, his eyes filled with tears. "Olive, oh God, are you okay? The baby?" Tom took her hand and held it tight. His hands were warm and familiar, nothing like the rough hands of the robbers. Olive felt safe again. "I'm okay," she whispered. "They think they can stop the labor. The baby's hanging in there." Tom kissed her forehead, his tears dropping onto her cheeks. "I got a call from a man named Hawk. He told me what happened. He told me to come right away." Olive nodded. "He saved me, Tom. Him and his friends. They're Hell's Angels." Tom looked surprised. "Hell's Angels? The motorcycle gang? They stopped the robbers. They saved our baby." A nurse came in with a clipboard. "Mrs. Chen, there's a man outside asking about you. Says his name is Hawk. He has your purse and the rest of your things." Tom looked at Olive. She nodded. "It's okay. Let him come in." Hawk looked even bigger in the small hospital room. His leather vest seemed out of place among the clean white walls and beeping machines. He held Olive's purse and shopping bags carefully, like they were made of glass. "How are you doing, ma'am?" Hawk asked, his voice softer than it had been in the parking lot. "The doctor says they can stop the labor," Olive said. "The baby's going to be okay." Relief washed over Hawk's face. He set the bags down on a chair. "That's real good news." Tom stepped forward, hand out. "I'm Tom, Olive's husband. I don't know how to thank you for what you did." Hawk shook Tom's hand. "No need for thanks. Couldn't just ride by when I saw what was happening." "But you risked your own safety," Olive said. "Those men had a knife." Hawk smiled a little. "4 of us against 2 of them? Not much risk." Then his face grew serious again. "Police have them both. The video from the store cameras and from people's phones should be enough to put them away for a while." Olive noticed something peeking out of Hawk's vest pocket. It was a hospital bracelet, the kind they give visitors. Hawk saw her looking and pulled out the bracelet. "My daughter had her baby here last year. Little girl named Rose." His rough face softened when he said it. "That's why I stopped at that store. Was picking up a birthday gift for her." The beeping machines seemed quieter now. Outside the window, the sun had fully set, leaving the room in the soft glow of hospital lights. "Would you like to see a picture of our baby?" Olive asked. She pointed to the ultrasound photos on the side table. Hawk picked them up and looked at the grainy black and white images. His large fingers touched the pictures gently, like he was touching the baby itself. "Strong little guy," he said, smiling. "Fighter, like his mama." The next morning, Olive sat up in her hospital bed, feeling much better. The contractions had stopped completely. The doctor said she and the baby were doing fine, but she needed to rest for a few days. Tom brought in a small box that had been left at the front desk. Inside was a tiny leather jacket, just the right size for a baby. A note was pinned to it. "For the little fighter. From his friends in the Angels." Olive held the tiny jacket and smiled. 2 weeks later, she was back home, still on bed rest but doing well. The nursery was finished now, with the yellow blanket hanging over the side of the crib. The tiny leather jacket hung on the wall nearby, a reminder of that evening in the parking lot. The news had spread quickly. The security footage showed everything: the attack, the rescue, the Angels helping Olive. People online shared the story thousands of times. Comments poured in, many from people who had changed their minds about the Hells Angels. 6 weeks later, when baby James was born, healthy and strong, Olive and Tom sent a picture to Hawk and his friends. The baby wore the tiny leather jacket, looking tough even though he was only 7 pounds. 1 year after that day in the parking lot, Olive pushed a stroller through the same shopping center. The yellow blanket covered James's legs as he slept peacefully. Olive no longer felt afraid in the parking lot. She knew that sometimes help comes from unexpected places. As she loaded her shopping bags into the car, she heard the rumble of motorcycles. A group of Hells Angels rode by, led by a familiar bearded face. Hawk nodded to her as they passed. Olive waved back, one hand on the stroller. James woke up and made happy baby sounds, reaching his little hands toward the passing motorcycles. Olive smiled and whispered to her son, "That's the man who helped bring you into this world safely." The Angels rode away, leather vests shining in the sun. Olive watched them go, thinking about how wrong she had been about them, how wrong most people were. Sometimes the fiercest-looking people had the gentlest hearts. Sometimes the most unexpected heroes appeared exactly when you needed them most. And sometimes a yellow baby blanket, once trampled in a parking lot, became the most precious reminder that in this world, goodness could still be found, often wearing leather and riding a very loud motorcycle.